Hey everyone, welcome to another video on the channel, and in today's video I have the ultimate storm guide for level 170 for y'all. I actually was planning to schedule this video for yesterday, and then something came up. If you know, you know. Anyways, in this video I will be helping you with understanding storm PvP, its strengths, its weaknesses, and kind of the general playstyles and the different setups and decks you can run on the school. I believe this is now my either third or fourth one, so let me know what you guys want to see next down there in the comments below. I think you guys wanted to see death and life next, and I need to get those guys raid gear ready. I'm only missing gear on the death and the life, so you might have to wait a while for those ones. Anyways, yeah, let's talk about Storm and the current state of the game. So the first thing we'll talk about is going to be the R-Shambo. I'll put an image up on screen. I probably should have done this with my last couple of videos, so my apologies there. But anyways, Storm is essentially countered by Ice and Death, and you're supposed to be good against Life and Fire. Now, just like every other school in terms of R-Shambo, Storm synergizes with 3 things, and they are good against 2 things. So as a Storm, you can easily look at your Oni, your Scion, and your Jhin to figure out what your 3 main gambits are, just in general for whatever school you are. So Storm Jhin is a hot gambit, which means you synergize well with hots on a Storm. Oni is a weakness gambit, which means you synergize with weaknesses, and Blades, obviously you synergize with Blades because, well, you're a Storm. Part of the reason why Storm is so bad is essentially, well, all 3 of these gambits are really bad. And the 2 parts of R-Shambo that Storm counters is going to be hots and dots. So Storm is basically the hard counter, I believe, to dots, which means you have stuff like, Lightning Bats, stuff like Stormzilla, and you also counter hots, so you have stuff like Triton and Path B King Artorias, so on and so forth. Hots and dots generally are not the best because typically PvP players want to use stuff that provides value now, so like a shield, a weakness, a trap, a blade, right? So that's kind of why Myth is so good and shield gambits are so powerful in general. Alright, so next up, I want to talk about the gear setups. Now, there are a lot of gear setups on the Storm, guys. There is, I think, about like 4 different builds, and they're all really good. It just really depends on how you want to play the school. And right now, to this current day, I think Healing Storm is the best. You could do like a mixture of PvE Storm and Healing Storm. I think you could do that, but personally, I don't even want to bother with what the deck failing would look like with that strat. So instead, I actually have been using a regular Storm setup, and I actually almost got Marshall this season. And considering how bad the school is right now in the game, that's really good, really impressive. So this is the setup I'm going to recommend for y'all, is the Healing Storm setup right now. You don't need as much raid gear compared to, other builds that you'll see and all. Like, it's not as pay to win, this setup, which makes it a bit nice. We're running the Jabalba hat, which is obviously locked behind the raid, unfortunately, but it's just the best hat right now in the slot for the build. Really good hat. Stalker robe, you can get this obviously by doing Wallaroo. This robe is just really good for a Storm, simply because you get a lot of health. Hun House, also not bad, but again, the health loss is extremely steep, and losing 9 accuracy is a lot on a Storm. Burrow Boots, which is probably the most unfortunate part of the setup, but unfortunately there is no other boots that are better currently in the slot to this day. Jabalba wand, it's just the best wand. Like, it's just literally not even debatable. You have to get that. Rebirth aim, it's just really good, and be sure to copy all the sockets I have on these parts as well, guys. Reaver Amulets. Hun Hao is also really good. I would say you do not need Hun Hao on a Storm, unlike you need Hun Hao Amulet on like a Myth. That simply is because even if you get the extra to resist here, you're still getting pierced by 5 out of 7 schools in the game. So personally, I like to go with the Reaver Amulet and get a little bit more block rating, because that's actually technically mitigating more for me. Also, the item card Stormblade is way more helpful than spending a pip on a blade that you can't really do anything with. Skyfarer's Band, again, there's just no 170 good ring that has been updated, unfortunately, but really good. You really are going to want that on a Storm. Then we have a double Breaker pet with D-Lance socketed. Then we obviously have the Clockwork Courser and the Reaver deck. The Shababa deck and the Hunhow deck are also really good alternatives for the deck slot. If you want to be a little crazy, you could technically swap out the D-Lance if you really want to and run Mighty instead. And Mighty actually works really well because you actually get a little bit more resist. You actually hit the damage cap and you hit the pierce cap with it, but you're going to pip bill probably a lot. And on a school like Storm where you cannot afford to make any mistakes right now in the current state of the game, having a stat like pip chance be at max is extremely important, guys. I really wish my stats could be this good, but unfortunately KingsIsle's made it clear time and time again. They just really hate Storm the most out of any school in the game. And this is the other setup that if you're not interested in doing healing Storm, but you care more about like beefing up your stats and getting all the stat maxes, this is the one I will have to recommend for y'all. So with this one, you have the Wastelander hat, which is only available through a pack right now. I think in the next update, they are releasing a free-to-play alternative, which is great. Stalker robe, again, this is pretty easy to get from Wallaroo and the Nightmare and all. Just the best robe. Shababa boots, again, unfortunately, there's always going to be 1 or 2 pieces of raid gear, which is kind of how oppressive it is right now in the current state of the game. Shababa wand, again, it's just a must-have. You can't really dismiss this. It's insane. Reaver knife, again, Reaver amulets, and Skyfarer's band. And then with this build, you have a double Mighty Breaker pet as well. There's also another setup with shads you run here. Basically, you run the Wastelander loop with a shad chance socketed and an amulet with shad chance as well, which basically allows you to get like 178 shads, which is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I tried it for a bit and all. It was honestly pretty fun, but I ultimately would not recommend this for ranking up, simply because just kind of how bad Storm is right now, right? And with other schools being able to hit through shields better by default, you dropping almost all your resist is just making them better at hitting through shields, right? And with how offensive the meta is right now in the game and how high damage is in the game, you kind of can't really afford to give up that 50 resist you have or whatever on a Storm. So yeah, it's cool and all, and I've done the testing. It just hasn't really done a lot for me. I feel like it's done more harm than good for me, unfortunately, but it is a cool setup you could try running. As for the deck, this is what I'm running currently. Right now, it's just a lot of catches, a lot of berries, a lot of Catalans, a lot of levies, right? And I have Path B Owl, hidden bubs, and a lot of counters to gain pips as well. So to play on a Storm right now, you basically have to understand what matchup you're against, and it's very important to track your opponent's pips, right? Your opponent's pips and the matchup will tell you if you can do a heal or not, right? So for example, if you play a fire and they have 3 Storm pips, well, they're planning on you burying and them Tritoning that, but a fire doing a Triton is extremely lethal and you do not want to deal with that on a Storm. So the first big tip I can give for the school is tracking the matchup, the pips your opponent has, and what kind of school pips they have. Those are very important things that you have to pay attention for on a Storm, unlike any other school. But essentially, your gameplay loop is going to be playing very defensive to get pips up and try and counter your opponent and maybe set up an Owl, which is really good value, obviously, and counter what they do, or stall time with, again, countering what they do with Eye and Scales to get some catch of the days off and some good hits to try and kill them before they kill you. This is my sideboard. Clanker and Crocopatra are the 2 best Storm cards inside. Again, you're going to see a lot of 0 pip moves and a lot of counter moves in main and side. You're basically just trying to get the first hit off and a better trade at all times, and then run away with the tempo, and then when you have the tempo and have the lead, try and get a berry out or something to try and gain value on your opponent and just keep hitting more. Lastly, let's talk about dual school. Now, dual school is not bad on a Storm. The issue is there's kind of a lot of things that are good, like life, dual school, death, dual school, you know, myth, dual school, and ice now with the new snowman change is really, really good. So it's almost like you have to dual school into all these things, but your stats are so bad and dual school is so bad on a Storm that you can't do any of it compared to other schools. But ultimately, what I've been ranking up with is just running ice accuracy and snowman, because in general, it's really good in every matchup because they're gonna weakness you more likely than not. And also with how broken and spammed Death is right now with Vampire, Headless Reader, etc. This card just absolutely shuts Death down as well when you combine it with like bats and stuff like that. The devs have said they're going to be looking into buffing Dual School for like Storm and Fire and all, which I'm really looking forward to, because it could really use the help. I think the two best ways they could probably buff dual schooling is by giving Storm Pins like way more damage and way more pierce compared to the defensive schools, because they have to make up for the health loss and resist loss somehow. But yeah, that's everything for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you made it this far, leave a like and a sub. And again, let me know what you want down there in the comments below, and I will see you later. Thank you for watching, and take care.